You wake up tomorrow morning, you shower, you get dressed, you grab your keys, you walk out to your car in the driveway, you sit down, you turn the key, and you hear absolutely nothing. Not a click, not a whine, not even the dashboard lights. Your car is a 2-ton paperweight. Your stomach drops because you are going to be late for work, again, for the 3rd time this week. You call your neighbor, you beg for a jump start, the cables go on, the engine fires right up like nothing ever happened, and you drive to work perfectly. The heat works, the radio works, the engine is smooth, everything is absolutely fine. And you think to yourself, okay, maybe the battery was just cold, maybe it was a fluke. Then the next morning, 6:15 a.m., you walk out to the driveway, you turn that key, and the exact same thing happens. Dead. Stone dead. No lights, no crank, no sound, nothing. And now the panic starts to set in. Now you are not thinking about a fluke, you are thinking about your wallet. You are thinking about the fact that your entire daily routine, your job, your ability to get your kids to school, all of it depends on whether or not this car decides to start in the morning. And that psychological pressure, that daily anxiety of not knowing whether your vehicle will function, that is the exact emotional state that a modern Western service department is designed to exploit. That is the pressure point they have been trained to squeeze since the day they opened for business. You finally break down. You tow the car to the dealership. You sit in that fluorescent-lit waiting room with the $8 coffee and the muted television playing the news, and after about 2 hours, a service advisor walks out with a clipboard and a very serious expression on his face. He tells you that the alternator has weak internal diodes. He tells you that because the alternator has been undercharging for weeks, possibly months, it has permanently damaged the internal chemistry of your battery. Both components, he says, must be replaced immediately. He slides the estimate across the counter. $900, parts and labor. And you, exhausted, defeated, desperate to just have a car that starts in the morning, you sign the paper. You hand over $900 of your money in the year 2026 when eggs cost $5 and rent has gone up 30% in 2 years. $900 for an alternator and a battery. And here is the part that makes me lose sleep at night. That alternator was perfect. That battery was chemically sound. The real problem, the actual reason your car was dying every single morning, was a 5-cent plastic plunger switch on your trunk light that had physically snapped. A tiny, invisible, worthless piece of injection-molded plastic was allowing a 5-watt halogen bulb to stay on inside your sealed trunk for 12 straight hours every single night while you slept. And nobody at that dealership, not a single one of those flat-rate technicians billing you $180 an hour in 2026 labor rates, none of them thought to open your trunk in the dark and look for a light. The dealerships making billions off your morning panic want you to think automotive charging systems are impenetrable mysteries of black box electrical engineering. They are not. What I am about to show you is basic parasitic draw mathematics and micro-switch mechanics that any Japanese-trained master technician learns in the first semester. But as always, I am sharing this old-school digital forensics trick for educational purposes. Please wear safety glasses when working around any automotive battery. Never bridge the positive and negative terminals with a metal tool, and do your own research before performing any work on your vehicle. Now let me show you why this scam works so well, and why a $0 smartphone hack destroys it in 30 seconds. Let us start with the engineering, because once you understand how these 3 components actually interact, you will never fall for this lie again. Your car's alternator is an electromechanical generator. Inside it there is a rotor, which is essentially a spinning electromagnet driven by your serpentine belt. That rotor spins inside a fixed stator, which is a set of copper wire coils arranged in a 3-phase star configuration. When the rotor spins, its magnetic field passes through those copper windings and induces alternating current. That is literally what the name means. Alternator. It generates alternating current. But your car runs on direct current, 12 volts DC. So inside the alternator there is a rectifier bridge made of 6 diodes that converts that AC into DC. This is the component the Stealership loves to blame. They tell you the diodes are weak, they tell you the rectifier is leaking AC voltage back into the system, and sure, that can happen. On a car with 300,000 miles that has been sitting in a Louisiana swamp for 6 years, on your 2019 Toyota Camry with 80,000 miles, the chances of all 6 diodes simultaneously degrading to the point of causing a daily no-start condition are astronomically small. The Japanese alternator on that car, and I am talking about the Denso units that Toyota, Honda, Subaru, Lexus, and Mazda have been using for decades. Those units are built with such absurd tolerances that they routinely outlast the vehicle itself. I have personally seen Denso alternators pulled off Corollas at 240,000 miles that still tested at 14.4 volts output under full electrical load. That is essentially factory specification. These are not fragile components. They are industrial generators bolted to an engine block. Now let us talk about the battery itself, because this is where the chemistry matters. A standard lead-acid automotive battery, the flooded cell type that is still in millions of cars on the road today, stores energy through a chemical reaction between spongy lead plates, lead dioxide plates, and a sulfuric acid electrolyte solution. When the battery is fully charged, the voltage across the terminals sits at approximately 12.6 to 12.8 volts. That is a fully healthy battery. When you crank the engine, the starter motor draws anywhere from 150 to 300 amps for about 2 to 4 seconds. That is a massive surge of current. The battery voltage dips temporarily, the engine fires, and then the alternator takes over and begins pumping 14.2 to 14.7 volts back into the battery to replenish what the starter consumed. This cycle works perfectly for 5, 6, 7 years on a quality battery. The battery does not just randomly die overnight. If a battery is dropping from 12.6 volts to below 10.5 volts in a 12-hour rest period with the car completely off, something is drawing current. Something is consuming energy while every system in the car is supposed to be asleep. And that something is what electrical engineers call a parasitic draw. If you have ever been told your battery is garbage and your alternator is dying and you need to spend $900 to fix both, I need you to hit the like button right now. I am serious. The algorithm buries this kind of content because it directly threatens the revenue model of every major auto parts chain and dealership network in the Western Hemisphere. If you have ever woken up to a dead battery and been told you need a new charging system, tell me in the comments what they tried to charge you and what car you were driving. I read every single comment. I want to build a database of this. And if you are not subscribed yet, hit subscribe and the bell right now before the automotive battery lobby pressures YouTube into throttling this channel into oblivion, because they have done it before and they will absolutely do it again. Now let me walk you through the villain of this story, because the dealership diagnostic process for a dead battery in 2026 is one of the most profitable scams in the entire automotive service industry. Here is how it works. You bring the car in, the technician hooks up a battery tester, one of those fancy conductance testers with the digital screen. The battery, which has been drained flat overnight by a hidden parasitic draw, tests as bad. Of course it does. It has been sucked dry. The tester says the cold cranking amps are below specification. The tech writes on the work order, battery failed load test. Then they hook up a charging system analyzer to the alternator. Now here is the critical trick. If the battery is in a deeply discharged state, the alternator has to work extremely hard to push current back into it. The voltage readings can appear slightly erratic during this heavy charging phase. A lazy or dishonest technician interprets this as a diode ripple issue, writes down alternator showing excessive AC ripple, and now you have 2 failed components on the repair order. Battery, $320 for a group size 24F AGM. Alternator, $350 for a remanufactured unit. Labor, $230 for removal, installation, and system verification. Total, $900, and they have not fixed anything. They have replaced 2 perfectly functional components, while the actual problem, a broken 50-cent trunk light switch, continues to drain the brand new battery they just installed. And guess what happens 3 weeks later? The customer is back. The new battery is dead. And the dealership says, oh, there must be a wiring issue now. That will be another $400 in diagnostic labor. This is not incompetence. This is a business model. This is a mathematically designed revenue extraction cycle that depends entirely on the customer not understanding what parasitic draw means. So let me teach you exactly what it means. When you park your car, turn off the engine, remove the key, and lock the doors, your car does not actually shut off. Not immediately. The vehicle's electronic control modules, and a modern car has anywhere from 20 to over 60 of these small computers, they all begin a shutdown sequence. This is managed by the CAN bus network, which stands for Controller Area Network. It is the digital nervous system of your car. Every module, the engine computer, the body control module, the transmission controller, the infotainment system, the power seat modules, all of them communicate on this shared data bus. When you turn the car off, the body control module sends a sleep command across the CAN bus. One by one, each module acknowledges the command and enters a low-power standby state. This process can take anywhere from 5 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on the vehicle. Once every module has gone to sleep, the total current draw on the battery should drop to somewhere between 20 and 50 milliamps. That is 0.02 to 0.05 amps. At that level of draw, a healthy 60 amp-hour battery could theoretically sit for weeks without starting and still have enough charge to crank the engine. But here is where the broken micro switch destroys everything. Your trunk has a small mechanical switch, usually a plunger-style switch mounted in the trunk lid frame. When the trunk closes, the lid physically presses the plunger down, which opens the circuit and kills the trunk light. When you open the trunk, the plunger pops back up, the circuit closes, and the light turns on. This is the simplest possible electrical circuit, a mechanical switch and a bulb. There is no computer controlling it. There is no CAN bus message involved. It is raw, hardwired, old-school electrical engineering, and because it is mechanical, it wears out. The plastic plunger cracks. The spring corrodes. The mounting bracket bends. And when that switch fails in the closed position, the circuit stays completed and the bulb stays on even with the trunk lid shut. That 5-watt halogen bulb, which seems utterly insignificant compared to the 200-amp starter motor, draws approximately 400 to 500 milliamps of current, 0.5 amps. That is 10 times the acceptable parasitic draw for a sleeping vehicle. Now let me do the math with you, because this is where the Stealerships scam falls apart under basic arithmetic. A typical automotive battery has a capacity of about 60 amp hours. That means it can supply 1 amp of current for 60 hours or 60 amps for 1 hour before it is fully discharged. If a hidden bulb is drawing half an amp, you divide 60 amp hours by 0.5 amps and you get 120 hours. That is 5 days to a completely flat battery. But in practice, a lead-acid battery cannot recover properly once it drops below about 50% state of charge, which is roughly 12.0 volts. So realistically, you have about 60 hours, roughly 2.5 days, before the battery voltage drops low enough that the starter motor cannot crank the engine. And if you are driving short trips, 15 or 20 minutes each way, the alternator may not have enough runtime to fully replenish what the bulb stole overnight. So every single day, the battery loses a little more net charge. After 3 or 4 days of this cycle, you are waking up to a dead car, and the dealership is counting on you not understanding the math. Now here is the part that makes this entire video worth your time. The $0 smartphone forensic hack. You do not need a multimeter, you do not need an amp clamp, you do not need a scan tool. You need the phone that is already in your pocket. Here is exactly what you do, step by step. First, you go to your car at night when it is dark outside because you need darkness to see whether a light is on inside a sealed compartment. You open your trunk, you take out your smartphone, you open the camera application and switch it to video recording mode. You press record. You place the phone face up in the trunk with the camera lens pointing upward toward the trunk lid. Make sure the phone screen is face down or dimmed so its own light does not contaminate the test. Now close the trunk lid completely. Shut it all the way until it latches. Walk away for 30 seconds. Just stand there and wait. After 30 seconds, open the trunk, pick up your phone, and stop the recording. Now play back the video. If the video shows absolute pitch blackness the entire time the trunk was closed, your trunk light circuit is functioning correctly. The switch is making contact, the circuit is open, and the bulb is off. Your parasitic draw is not coming from the trunk. But if you play that video back and you see the inside of your trunk illuminated, if you can see the carpet, the spare tire cover, the emergency kit, then you have found your vampire. That trunk light has been burning for 12 hours every single night while you slept, silently draining your battery to death. The fix is so simple, it borders on insulting. You reach into the trunk light housing, you grip the small halogen or incandescent bulb, you give it a quarter turn counterclockwise, and you pull it out of the socket. Done. The circuit is broken. The parasitic draw is eliminated. Your battery will now hold its full 12.6 volt charge overnight, and your car will start perfectly every single morning. Total cost of this repair, $0. 0. You do the same test with the glove box. Open the glove box, put the phone in, close it, wait, open it, play back the video. Check the underhood light if your vehicle has one. Check the door courtesy lights by closing each door individually with the phone inside. Any compartment that has a dedicated mechanical switch and a bulb is a potential suspect. The smartphone camera test isolates the fault in 30 seconds without a single tool. Now I have to be very serious with you for a moment because there are real dangers involved in working around automotive batteries, and I am not going to skip over them. Lead-acid batteries contain sulfuric acid. If you crack or puncture the case, that acid will burn your skin and destroy your clothing. Always wear safety glasses when you are anywhere near a battery. Never, ever touch a metal wrench or screwdriver across both battery terminals simultaneously. That will create a dead short circuit. The tool will arc weld itself to the terminals, the battery can explode and spray acid in your face, and you can suffer severe burns or worse. If you have a battery that has been drained completely flat, multiple times in a row, which is exactly what happens when a parasitic draw goes undiagnosed for weeks. The internal lead plates may have undergone a process called sulfation. Hard sulfation means that lead sulfate crystals have formed on the plate surfaces and hardened to the point where they can no longer participate in the chemical reaction. At that point, the battery genuinely is damaged and does need to be replaced. But the key difference is that you are replacing one battery for $160 to $200, not replacing a battery and a perfectly good alternator for $900. That is the line between an informed repair and a Stealership extraction. Subscribe to this channel right now, and make sure you check the featured section for our secondary channel, because we are building something that the entire automotive service industry does not want to exist. A community of informed drivers who know exactly how their cars work, who refuse to pay $900 for a broken 50-cent switch, and who share the real data with each other in the comments every single day. I will see you in the next one.